We are Wednesday morning. Banter with Beth is back here for our final episode of 2021. My guest this morning is fellow Wolverine from Ann Arbor, Michigan, my friend, my producer, Josh Buoy. Josh is here. I'm bringing him on, waving to ya. Good morning, good morning. Here we go. We're live. Let's see if it works. Come on, Instagram technology. There we are.
Hello. Hey, Beth.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning. Got my iced coffee over
Yes,
here.
I've got
Silver
my
Light.
hot. Mhm. And how are you this fine Wednesday morning?
I'm well. I'm well. I'm deeply honored to be the last guest of the season. And with that. And actually, this is my first ever Instagram live. I've
Right?
never. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
I'm
I
seeing
seem to
people I
be getting a
know.
lot of virgins on this program, which is kind
Yes.
of
Well.
great.
Well, yes. In some ways, yes. I guess that applies to me. But it's fun. It's fun. So what are we gonna banter about, Beth?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, sometimes we just got to go with what's right in front of us, right? And I, for one, have had a dark night of the soul trying to uncrack the opening of our film. But before we even dive into that conversation, because you and I have the unique opportunity to not banter about all the stuff that life brings us, and, like, yes, you're an accomplished producer, you're an accomplished creative, you've started a gazillion startup businesses, you have a resume longer than my pool. You got a lot going on, especially for somebody who is as young as you are. The beard can't fool me. And but honestly, we have the unique opportunity of working on the same project, so we can
Yeah.
really dig into why. Like,
Yeah.
why
Right.
are we doing what we're doing?
Awesome.
So, but before we do that, I think what's
Mhm.
important for everyone in our audience to know about you is that we are both fellow Wolverines.
Go Blue. Big Ten
We,
champions.
yeah. So this is a big deal. This is a big deal
Yeah.
for us. Hope
Mhm.
it's a big deal for all y'all out there, because it's been a while, right?
97 since we had
Oh,
last national championship appearance. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's been a while, and we're a heavy Go Blue. We're a heavy Maize and Blue family over here. Four of us are alma
yep.
maters in my house.
We're
Five.
Go Blue, Matt Cloutier. Go Blue, Matt Cloutier. Matt was the old drum major at Michigan a couple years back, so he's on the call.
Oh, right. Ah, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
my parents went to Michigan, and so we're three or four. Our Wolverines, bleeding blue. So
Love it, love it, love it. By the way, did you see Ken Fisher's email
yeah,
from
shout out to Ken
3:30 in the
Fisher.
morning?
That man. Shout out to Ken Fisher, who
Like,
introduced the two of us
yes.
in New York, and he was like, "Josh, you have to meet Beth. She's amazing. She's making a film.
And he
Hail,
said to
Beth."
me, Beth, you got to meet Josh. He's amazing. He made these incredible videos for us here at Michigan.
And then 2 years later, here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Yeah. So Ken Fisher, what are you doing up at 3:30 in the morning? No
Yeah,
wonder you're not here on
Ken.
Banter with us right now. Sleeping. Hardly sleeping. I don't think that man even knows what the meaning of sleep is. But then
He's
again,
truly the most beautiful relational soul. His
yes.
love of people is he's one of my dearest friends and mentors in the world because he loves people so much.
Yeah.
And I think I've learned so much about trying to share that love with other folks in return. So
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. He's the angel on my shoulder every time I have one of these dark nights of the soul. But one thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, and I don't know how they can find it, is it on YouTube? But you have this great video about, and did you create the software for developing teams in terms of political engagement?
yeah, so I mean, high level, my background, I got the great gift of spending the last 5 years running two startups in New York. One was a political technology company called the Tuesday Company, and our apps team and Vote With Me were used heavily in the 2018 and 2020 election cycles to help get awesome progressive candidates and causes awareness and help them organize online. And then Snow Day was my amazing team. They're still in New York. They're an amazing team of storytellers. I was the executive producer there and one of the co-founders, and we got to tell stories from the biggest brands in the world. And so, yeah, we got to spend those years building Snow Day and Tuesday. Somehow they both had the word day in the title, which was an accident. Didn't mean for that to be the case. But, I think the moving to Los Angeles, which I did mid-pandemic, the goal was to start telling original stories and to start telling stories that I felt moved the world forward. And that's when Ken introduced me to you, and we reconnected about a year ago around Christmas.
Right.
It's I moved out here to work on projects exactly like yours, right? And this has been such a gift to see that intention setting for myself and the trajectory of my career. And yeah, I'm just excited to chat about where we are and confronting those dark nights of the soul together. And it's being in the weeds is so emotional and so meaningful. And I'm grateful to be in there with you, Beth.
Right on. Thank you, Josh. Thank you so much. You have two favorite quotes, and I want to start with one of them that says, "Art isn't everything; it's just about everything." Gertrude Stein. Mm-hmm. And I've been hanging out with a little Gertrude Stein this morning.
We love ourselves a little Gertrude Stein.
Yes. I keep ripping books out of my bookshelves, like, okay, maybe this will answer my question. Maybe that will answer my question. But why Gertrude Stein? What does she mean to you?
Well, to be totally honest, I need to know more about Stein. But that quote, I came about that quote actually when doing a project about the definition of art. And for me, I made a short film a couple years ago. For many years, I hadn't made shorts. I was running companies, and I was dating a guy at the time. And I was lamenting how I hadn't made a short film in like 8 to 9 years. And he said, "You want to be a producer, director, writer?" I'm like, "Yeah, more than anything." And he was a great guy, and he was just like, "You're running companies. You're not. I didn't know you were doing that, right?" And it really kind of struck me because I was like, "Oh man, this person who knows me is a great person. He has no idea what I really want to do because I'm not doing it, right?" And so I made this quest to start making art, no matter what it looked like. And I think that the goal that I came across that quote actually. This is the short film I made. It was a great learning experience. It was my kind of first short back since college, and I think that the beautiful thing about art is that it's not everything, right? Life, people, these things matter. Art is a mirror of that, but it's about everything. Everything that comes into the frame has a life and a history and a soul and a purpose far before and far after. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something when I look at those like short films I made 3 years ago, really, I thought about them too myopically, right? Like, and I think even looking at this film, it's a documentary that we're making. We're telling just a slice of this family story, your family story. We're telling just a small slice of the story of the Holocaust, right? And I think that what makes these projects so powerful and at times overwhelming is that even though one film is not the end of the world, it contains within it the entirety of every person's story that they're bringing into it. And I mean, even reconnecting with some of your aunts, really, and hearing where they see themselves in the film recently, as you have been, right? It's this beautiful, enormous responsibility. And I think that for me, the Stein quote is so profound because, one, it helps level set and helps, it's a little bit of ego death. Art isn't everything, like, calm down. And so that's good. But it's married with this tome of it's about everything. And you can't remove, and that's something that, another quote I love, it's a piece of art by John Baldessari, the postmodernist, and it's his piece he wrote the same sentence 40 times in a piece of parchment. And it's "I will not make any more boring art." And I think for me, that sentiment of not making boring art is the same as art being about everything, right? Like, human beings are so weird and interesting and conflicting all the time themselves. And I think those kind of contradictions are what make art so compelling. And I think, frankly, it's what I really admire about so many of your choices in the film. I think that the film isn't the easiest version of the story that you could be telling. And I always admire, more times than not, I see you making what, I see to be the more interesting choice. And I think that's because you honor the complexity of what is happening here. And it's your family story. And so it would be easy for you, being your family story, to sugarcoat certain things or to like pass by certain things. But I see you as a director dealing with the conflict in a way, and the complexity. And because that's where the honesty comes from. That's where the love comes from in the film. And so I think it's been I've learned a lot seeing you lean into that complexity.
Well, thanks. It's tormenting.
Yeah,
You
absolutely, it's
know,
tormenting.
it's I had the good fortune of working for Francis Ford Coppola one summer, and I was an actor on one of his sets, and he had in his video village, a gazillion monitors, of course, but one monitor was always the same, never changed, and it said, "Art never sleeps."
Mm.
And
Mm.
it doesn't. And I think the greatest gift that I learned from working for him is, granted, he's in a position where he can use every film set as a sandbox, as a playground for
Yeah.
himself. He achieved certain milestones very young, and was able to afford that to himself. But shouldn't we always all work that way, no matter what?
Yeah.
That everything is a sandbox, and castles can be built and then they can be washed away and then you rebuild them again. And it's that rebuilding that you think, oh my gosh, I lost that perfect turret, but now I have a chance to build a drawbridge instead, or
Yeah.
whatever. But the other quote that we have here that I think is one of your favorites, by Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah. Yeah.
To be an artist means to search, to find and look at these realities. To be an artist means to never look away.
I think that the pandemic, has been a time for many people, myself included. We couldn't look outward for the early parts of it, and then so it caused us to look inward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the experience of both looking outward and inward constantly, I think, is how you receive the data to really understand the beauty and complexity of life, which is what fuels and funnels art. And I think that, I don't know, when you're producing specifically, or when you're running startups, you're trying to get big things off the ground. It's so easy to just be behind a laptop and just be there in a spreadsheet or in a Google Doc or in an email and just sit there for 10 hours and just lose all sense of yourself in the world. And I think I've learned more than ever these last 2 years that great inspiration and great art and great thinking doesn't come from sitting behind a laptop, right? And I think that the reminder from Kurosawa to never look away is, again, it's this tome that I carry with me, because we always have, when we have the pleasure of, it's not just seeing with our eyes, but with our ears and with our every sense we have. That is our receptors receiving the art of the universe. And to be an artist means to receive and to gather and to stew and then to push back out and to reinterpret. And so, I'm so glad you brought those up. I have a whole notepad in my phone of just my quote meditations, right? And
Great.
You got to do it. And it's grounding,
Well,
especially when the weeds of a film.
I think right now in our process, let's just bring all those quotes in. We're looking at something, we're trying to unpack it, we're trying to reimagine it and why something is or isn't working. Let's get a little poetic.
Yeah.
It's so easy for me to live on one side of the brain, trying so hard to spin so many plates and get this piece of art, to the finish line. And I forget, wait a minute, my first job here is the storyteller.
Yeah.
That's my first job. Everything else will happen. It will, I hope.
It will. It already is. It already is.
But as a storyteller, so when do you think you knew your earliest memories of wanting to become a storyteller, or discovering that you were a storyteller?
It's few things come to mind. I think one, I still struggle sometimes with seeing myself as a storyteller, right? I think that the voice in your head that naysays, that is self-deprecating, that is hard on the self, it's loud. And so I struggle with that daily. My grandma used to take me to the movies every Friday growing up. I'd spend Fridays with her, and I'm very lucky that I have two wonderful parents and then two wonderful grandmas that raised me when my parents were working. And every Friday, Nani and I would go to the movies, and I fell in love with movies going with her to the theater. And we would see all the Oscar nominees when I was way too young to do so, because that's what we would do for fun. And I remember seeing Chicago, Rob Marshall's, 2002 musical. It's a blast. It's so fun and so kinetic. And I was so drawn in by the concept. And I loved musicals back then, even still did too. And it was a moment when Richard Gere did his tap dance number, which again, Richard Gere, rom-com star of Runaway Bride and Pretty Woman, tap dancing his heart out for a movie musical. And the whole audience burst into applause after that scene.
Oh.
And it was the first time in my life I'd ever been in a movie where the audience burst into applause, not at the end, because it was congratulating the art, but because the collective emotion of this room of strangers was so in tune to the thing that was happening that they had to just burst in enthusiasm. And I remember thinking at that time, if I ever get the chance to create something that is shown to a room full of strangers and elicits that kind of unanimous, spontaneous response, I can't think of much greater gifts in this life. And so that planted the seed. That planted the seed, that exact moment. And I think, I've had a couple moments. A short I made in college, we did a screening of it, and I remember hearing a stranger behind me cry as they were watching it. It was an emotional, kind of like heart-telling story of the world's oldest man. And I remember that was the moment I got close to that, right? And I think since then, I'm 30 now, in my 20s, I spent most of the time working in ads and working in big brand builds for wonderful brands like Google and other great international companies, and met beautiful people there and did some really wonderful work, but, nothing that really stirred the soul. And I think that, to your point, the experience of making film is so overwhelming and so complex that to do it without trying to move people, for me, it can become dehumanizing. It can become deeply exhausting. And I think that, I think that's, again, part of my journey being here in LA now is being on projects where every day I'm proud of the things that I'm working on and the stories that I'm helping to shepherd through. And, Beth, I said this to you already, but this is my first feature producer credit after producing 1 million short things in ads. And it is just a joy to be so proud of the project that I get to have this first credit on, right?
Aww.
Because there's no part of me genuinely that goes into any room caveating, right? Yeah, it's a film, it's whatever. No, I am just so you won't believe the story. You have to share this story, and you have to hear the story and see it and feel it. And I think that Buoyancy is the name of my new studio, and trying to tell stories that uplift humanity. And when I think about what that means, I mean the powerful story of your family and how they escaped in Nazi Germany. I mean that in the Holocaust. I mean this is the epitome of how we can uplift and connect people. The stories we tell. So I think there was an answer in there somewhere, but I think
definitely, most definitely, and I'm really glad you brought up Buoyancy and the motto of Buoyancy: stories that uplift the world. We're at this moment in history, not that we ever weren't there, but we have this opportunity to be reminded, and we can accept the challenge if we wish to look at life through the lens of uplifting always. Why not? It's that old adage of that it's easier to smile than to frown. It takes less muscles in your face to smile than to frown. And what is it that we can do as participants in this orb that's spinning in the atmosphere? We are these little bits and pieces of human life. And how is it that we can be a part of this vast, extraordinary universe and create conflict? What's the point of that? What's the point of it? If I kind of riff off into just the organic nature of farming, sure, to have an organic farm, lots of things have to kill and eat each other in order for rebirth to happen. All right, I get it. The bees get killed, the bunnies get killed, it all comes back around, and then you have great lettuce. It's okay, I understand, but as human beings, we have this thing up here, this brain that's connected to this heart, that's connected to our breath, and then that's even connected more for many of us to the expression of how we communicate and the choices that we make when we communicate, are those choices uplifting to the people around us? Are they uplifting to ourselves?
Well, something I've been sitting with recently in my own just personal growth and journey is this reminder that, the presence of conflict does not mean the absence of love.
Right.
And I think that, we're in a time of deep conflict in this country and within families, between families. And I think that it's easy to write off
Mm-hmm.
people that don't agree with you, that are dissimilar to you, are that feel less evolved or feel on a different page than you. But I think that we all want and deserve the same things. And at the core of all those things is love. And I think that it's how can we use and work with the stories we tell to help magnify that in the people we meet, right? Because that's the beautiful thing about stories is that they're a great unifier. When you think about like things that still connect us, I mean, the exhilaration of seeing a great blockbuster film that's like a popcorn film, no matter who you voted for, if it's a good movie, you're going to cheer and be excited and root for the underdog and hope to see good prevail over evil, right? I mean, these things are universal constants and they're baked into our DNA, right? And I think that so much of narrative is such a interesting framing device that we use as a society to like make sense of the complexities of our world, and I think oftentimes narrative can be limiting. We can chew ourselves into a narrative that box ourselves into a narrative rather that is so finite and so not speaking to our multitudes and our humanity. And I think that when you're storytellers, it's a responsibility not to overly prescribe what you're trying to say, but to account for the randomness and the joys of living. And again, that goes back to like I think our film and your film, Beth. It's beautiful because the offshoots of it and the tangents of it, right? It would be easy to make this a pretty standard film, and every time you decide not to do that, enriches the art and the story. Because I think it's important to allow our narratives to be precise but forgiving, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can't overprescribe things.
No.
Because
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and the beautiful thing about any kind of art, theater, film, experiential, right, is that the viewer is a participant in the creation, right? Like a movie is nothing unless someone is seeing it. And the experience of somebody watching it, they are co-creating the experience of watching that movie when they are in the theater. And we got to afford the room to have that co-creation happen.
Yes.
And we do that by creating narratives that bring people in and with them help uplift the world.
I mean, I hope that what will be successful for us in this piece of storytelling is because it's about 7 siblings.
Mm-hmm.
We basically have 7 different archetypes.
Yeah.
7 different points of entry into the same story.
Yeah.
And my hope, just like chakras, these spinning wheels that we have in our DNA and in our consciousness and how they operate different parts of our body and we have access to them, that each viewer that comes to screen the film and participate in the story can relate to at least one of these archetypes.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Yeah.
We I don't even know what to say. This is we're so close.
I know.
We're so close in post-production, you guys, and
Mm-hmm.
we're working so hard to like keep pushing the boulder up the mountain to just get it over so it can roll down with speed and alacrity and not like bowl anybody over. We just want it to be part of the conversation about racism and Holocaust awareness. I keep pulling books out to help me with my writing, because I get so inspired by amazing writers, and of course, not the least of which is Elie Wiesel, who wrote the extraordinary book Night. And he says here, where is it? He says, why Did he write it? And at the end of the day, that he has this moral obligation to try to prevent the enemy from enjoying one last victory by allowing his crimes to be erased from human memory. So my goal, I think, is similar, but my goal is that we place the people who actually, not the enemy, but the people, the allies, the people who actually took the risk, took the chance at their own personal peril to do the right thing, and that those stories are not lost in memory, that those stories are heralded, of course, but that that we provide them as an opportunity for us to remember that we are capable of the same. We just have to choose it.
Well, and maybe, Beth, that's a seed for cracking that opening. You know, like, I think that maybe that's a place to different starting point that we've investigated in the past, and I think that, it's it really, what you're saying to me, which reads really true. It's an invitation to the audience, right? Just to see themselves as those allies, right? Because obviously the story of your 7 aunts and uncles' mom is extraordinary, in every sense of the word. But the thought of being a person encountering a family in need is something everyone will probably have to do at some point in their life. And depending on how, and maybe many times, and maybe in ways that are more subtle, maybe ways that are more pronounced. And I think that that's a beautiful, for me, frame looking into this last sprint of the race here. Like, how do we make room to invite in that audience to, like, see themselves as those allies? Bystander intervention, right, as a piece of art. And I think that I think that's even, it's a beautiful way to, like, channel empathy. I think movies and stories are great empathy builders, but I think, like, how do you bring empathy into action, right? And I think that is what I hear you saying here. And I think, how do we set up the top of the film such that the audience can step away with not just an admiration, but a confidence that they too, would hide a family.
Yes, right.
If required.
Right. Yeah. So what is next for you? You always are juggling 10 million projects at the same time. Would You Hide Me is not the only thing on your docket right now. What else are you working on, and what else is in the offing for you?
It's a really it's been a really beautiful season of my life. I think that after sprinting at these startups for many, many years, I finally, last March and April, took a bit of a breather, kind of a forced breather. And I was like, well, not everything worked out like I wanted to. So my jokes, I took my first retirement. And I just hung out for like 2 months in March and April and didn't do much of anything. And it was exactly what my soul needed. I think, I'm working with some powerful brands that, I'm really helping them figure out how to uplift the world, like, through the work that they do. And to actually do branded storytelling in a way that's way more meaningful, it's been a gift to kind of rebuild what I thought advertising was, and to be something very different is really, really special. I started doing some work in the experiential space, and I'm excited to talk with you more about this with your theater background, because I doing experiential builds and having things be tactile that people can touch and walk through and see. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I feel like a Disney Imagineer. It's a joy. And then
are you using Oculus? What are you using?
No, we've been doing real pop-ups in New York City, like actual experience, not virtual experiential, like actual experiential.
Okay, nice.
And literally physical. And then I think the last joy has been really committing to working in film and TV. And so like, this is the biggest project I'm on right now, for sure, in every sense of the word. But my writing partner, dear Avery Diabaldo, who's an amazing guy, getting a master's at U Florida for creative writing, we are committing to writing our first feature and TV show, and giving ourselves the permission to do that, right? I think that it's easy, being from the Midwest, to just say you'll get to that stuff later. One of my favorite quotes I heard too, actually, was at the first Sundance I went to was in 2018, and it was a keynote that was given. They said, that idea in the back of your head that you've been sitting with for a long time that you can't get rid of, that you want to turn into a screenplay but you haven't yet. Don't hold judgment at that idea because you haven't let it go. The fact that it's still there means there's a powerful story. It means it's lingering for a reason. And I think that, I've long struggled to give myself permission to create, in terms of feelings of obligation and duty and responsibility to grow companies and teams. And I think that right now, what I have a couple brand partners that I do really beautiful work with. These pop-ups are fun, but otherwise, I'm working on this film with you, and I'm writing a film with Avery. And it's
great.
It's a prioritization of the kind of work I want to do, the likes of which I haven't yet done before, and it is such a privilege to get to do that. So
now,
yeah, I don't really know
have
exactly
to answer this question, but is there a little log line for the movie or the pilot?
Yeah, I'll give you one of each. So
okay.
For the movie will be more abstract. It's a coming of age story about a 30-something-year-old who deeply wants to change the course of their life, and gets to experience through a mechanism in the film all the lives that they never got to live. And so it's a fun kind of time travel coming of age story, right in our wheelhouse to write and our favorite things to create. And then on the TV side, I have the great privilege of working with an amazing couple, John and Michael Galluccio. They were the first gay male couple in the country to petition the state to allow for joint adoption.
Oh, wow.
And I'm working with Avery and our dear friend Zoe Duncan-Doroff, who's a brilliant creative as well. And we are turning their beautiful story into hopefully a miniseries is what we're aiming for, maybe a feature. And, as a queer man myself, I think I've had a lot of holdups over the years of can I have a family? Should I have a family? What does that look like? And just being with these amazing guys and seeing their love. We've been doing weekly conversations on Sundays with them to learn their story, to get pen to paper. And, the most powerful way to start seeing yourself be something you didn't think you could be is to see someone else already being it. And I think that, as a cisgender white man, I have tremendous privilege to see myself in most rooms. But the moments when, as a queer man, I get to see that representation, for me, I start to get it, right? I'll never forget, I saw in New York in 2019 when Pete Buttigieg announced running for office, and I saw Chasten introduce him, and Chasten kissed Pete, hello, and Pete said, I'm Pete Buttigieg, I'm running for president of the United States. I remember, when I came out, my college friends when I was 21, I said to folks, well, I can never be president now because I'm gay, and because that was 9 years ago, right? And it was a different world even then. And to see Pete introduce and to kiss his husband, and then to go win Iowa, it was, oh wow, that's why representation matters. That's why it's so essential that we tell stories where people can see themselves in it.
Yes.
And I think that even, so I get to do that. Each we're writing the time travel coming of age story with the Galluccio story, trying to honor that as best I can. How can you create art where more people can see themselves in it? Because I think that, again, it's marrying meaningful representation with real outcomes. And even back to Would You Hide Me? I think that's what I see you trying to do, right? It's deeply meaningful representation, seeing the stories that we have, we cannot forget. We cannot be lost to the sands of time. But that we then can drive action from it, that we can actually have someone see this film and be like, I want to be an ally. I have to be an ally. I have to do something with this knowledge and this information. And so, when I look at those three films, I'm just like, these are the kind of things that I want to be doing for the rest of my life. And it's easy to feel that and say that. And I think, Beth, the other thing I love about all creativity, film and theater and experiential, is just how deeply collaborative it is, right? I think that it is such a gift to co-create. I think our art for me is a gift of co-creation. And I think that, working on this film with you will always be one of my most significant milestones in my career as an artist. And so, I'm just deeply grateful that you want me here, that
Josh, of course.
And that, and then we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to lock it, and we're going to cry, and we're going to cry a lot. We're going to drink a little bit, and it's gonna be great because we'll finally have a movie. But yeah, those are the two things I'm working on right now: the feature and the mini series that I'm most excited about, and obviously this documentary, Would You Hide Me?
Cool, very cool. Well, I'm psyched. You know, we live in the Zoom universe. I remember, I think it was not too long ago, a couple months ago, where you said, "Oh yeah, let's get together. Do you want to come to my place?" And you're where in Silver Lake or
I'm
Upper
in
Park
Silver
or
Lake. Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "What? Drive to Silver Lake? Like Zoom, buddy? This is the Zoom universe. I don't have time to drive anywhere." But I am so thrilled to know that I'm going to see you physically in person on Saturday
Yep.
to celebrate the holiday season
Yes.
as we come out, try and come out very, very safely with, thank you, Omicron, whatever.
Yeah.
But we're all being careful. We're all being safe,
Yeah.
but we can actually vaccinated up. We can be together and actually, I love technology, but man,
It'll
human
be
contact
good.
is a very important thing. Yeah.
We're gonna be fully vaxxed, and we're gonna eat some Christmas snacks, and we're gonna sing some carols,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be great. I want to duet, Beth. We got to
Oh,
do a duet of something.
you tell me what you want and we'll do it. We'll sing a duet. I'm down for that, man. I'm down for that.
I can't wait to
Josh,
see.
thank you so much for coming on
My
Banter
pleasure, Beth. Thank you for
today.
having me.
I can't wait to see you probably on Zoom later this afternoon,
I'm sure
but
we'll hop on. We have a lot of
I'm
fun.
sure we will. But thank you so much for coming on. Thank you
Of
for
course,
all
Beth.
the beautiful contributions you are making to Would You Hide Me, and as you continue to make us a storyteller in the universe of cinematography and film and theater and everything that you touch.
Yeah.
So
Well,
blessings to you, my friend.
let's keep on keeping on.
Sounds good. You
Bye,
guys, we're
Beth.
taking a break over the holidays. I'll be back in January. So everybody, ho ho ho. Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Continue to follow us, please, on social media. Hit that like button. Join if you haven't joined. If you're new to Beth Lane Film, please join and be a follower. We could use all the support, and talk to everybody in the new year. All right, bye for now.